There are people who move through life like still water. They don't react to chaos, they don't rise to conflict, they don't chase approval or validation. At first glance, it looks like indifference, like they simply don't care. But beneath the stillness is something far deeper: awareness, experience, and an understanding of what truly deserves attention. They've learned that not everything is worth energy, not every word deserves response, not every storm demands participation. And that realization isn't born overnight. It comes from living through noise, drama, disappointment, heartbreak, and realizing that reacting to every stimulus drains the soul. They've watched others burn their energy chasing illusions, seeking approval, proving themselves over and over. And eventually they ask themselves, why? Why invest in chaos that doesn't belong to me? To not care is not to be cold. It is a choice, a deliberate understanding of priorities. These people have measured the cost of caring too much: the anxiety, the overthinking, the regret. And they have chosen differently. Their calm isn't apathy, it's selective engagement. They protect their inner space as a sacred resource. They don't waste it on things that can't enrich their life or people who cannot respect it. Psychologists describe this as emotional detachment, response flexibility, or emotional regulation. But none of these terms capture its poetic truth. The unbothered person doesn't suppress feeling. They feel fully, yet they pause. Between stimulus and reaction, there is a space, a small, invisible moment, where wisdom lives. In that moment, they decide whether something deserves their attention, their energy, their reaction. That pause is their superpower. It allows them to witness insults without rage, drama without anxiety, disappointment without collapse. It's the difference between being tossed by waves and learning to ride them. Most people misunderstand them. They assume calmness is weakness, that detachment is lack of emotion. In reality, it is emotional mastery. They've experienced the cost of overreaction. They've learned that every eruption, every attempt to control, every desperate effort to be seen only multiplies suffering. And so they step back, they conserve energy. They choose what deserves engagement and what deserves silence. This practice begins subtly at first. It is born of necessity. Life teaches them through repeated exposure that caring about everything leads to chaos. Painful experiences, broken relationships, and personal failures show them which battles matter and which are inconsequential. And gradually they learn to let go, to prioritize, to direct attention only where it can have impact. That is emotional independence, that is freedom. And with freedom comes perspective. The unbothered see the world differently. Where others see insult, they see misunderstanding. Where others see drama, they see opportunity for clarity. Where others chase control, they observe patterns. They notice motives, intentions, and dynamics that remain invisible to those entangled in reaction. Their clarity isn't taught. It's trained through experience, through observation, through conscious restraint. It is tempting to call this arrogance, to assume they think themselves superior. But in truth, they are humble. They are aware of limits. They understand the fragility of human effort. They know that rushing, reacting, and over-investing often does more harm than good. And so they allow life to unfold while remaining anchored within themselves. Their calm is an internal compass, guiding their attention, energy, and emotions. Yet this stillness is not effortless. The unbothered have felt anger, disappointment, grief, and fear. They've cried in private, questioned themselves, and felt the sting of rejection. But they've learned to return to stillness. They have trained their minds to process emotion without being overwhelmed. Sadness becomes reflection. Anger becomes clarity. Anxiety becomes patience. And through this transformation, emotion no longer dictates action. They create space between stimulus and reaction. And in that space, they find freedom. Freedom manifests as confidence, not in words or gestures, but in presence. A room with them feels lighter. Their energy doesn't demand attention, it draws it effortlessly. They don't argue to be right, They don't fight to be noticed. They do not compete with the noise. And in that absence of unnecessary engagement, they become magnetic. Others are drawn not to what they do, but to what they embody. A deliberate mastery over self, a serenity rooted in understanding, a power forged quietly through restraint. And yet this power is rarely recognized. Society celebrates the loud, the reactive, the dramatic. But it is the unbothered who hold the invisible strength. They conserve energy for what matters: meaningful work, authentic relationships, self-growth, and deliberate joy. They have learned that reacting to everything is the fastest path to chaos, and disengaging from the inconsequential is the fastest path to clarity. There is a paradox in them: deeply emotional, yet rarely reactive. They care, but only where care is warranted. They feel, but only where feeling is meaningful. And through that balance, they achieve a rare kind of wisdom, the ability to see the world clearly, uncolored by noise, unshaken by drama, unconsumed by the petty demands of life. Calmness and detachment are not the same. Detachment is a conscious choice to disengage from that which does not serve your inner equilibrium. Calmness is the emotional tone that results. Together they form the psychology of people who don't care. They have freed themselves from the tyranny of expectation. They have learned that the world will always present reasons to react, but not every reason deserves attention. Not every storm requires entry. And in choosing wisely, they preserve their mind, their spirit, their power. And here is what makes them rare. They live deliberately, they observe, pause, and act only when it matters. They do not chase validation, nor fight battles they cannot win. They navigate life as if watching a tide, aware of its rise, its fall, its tempests, yet unshaken by its rhythm. Their strength is invisible, yet undeniable. Their peace is deliberate, not accidental. They have built it through trial, through patience, through understanding the cost of giving too much of themselves. If you ever encounter someone unbothered, notice the stillness in them, their eyes, their posture, their energy. It is not apathy, it is presence, it is mastery. And perhaps in observing them you may begin to understand what it means to protect your own energy, to pause before reacting, and to choose where your attention, emotion, and effort truly belong. Because in a world that rewards reaction, learning not to react is the rarest form of freedom. And that freedom is the psychology of people who don't care.